Good afternoon, everybody. Glad to have you all here for the November 27th edition of the Society of Agricultural Communications Scholars webinar. Today we have with us Lacey Roberts-Hill and Laura Fisher, who will be talking about creating collaborative multi-state partnerships. I'm Ricky Telk at the University of Florida, and again, we're here for about an hour. So how we've done things in the past is that in this case, Laura and Lacey will do their presentation. It's really up to them how they would like to maybe have interaction or questions throughout or at the end. But then after all the questions and the presentation is over, we'll have hopefully some time if you have any things that you all would like to share with the bigger group, maybe announcements about jobs or something along those lines. There should be time at the end of the presentation to do that. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Lacey and Laura to talk with us today about multi-state partnerships.
Fantastic. Thank you, Dr. Telg. We really appreciate it. Just a brief introduction. My name is Laura Fisher, and I'm an assistant professor at Texas Tech University, focused in agricultural communications. And as Dr. Telg introduced, Dr. Lacey Roberts-Hill at New Mexico State. Do you want to tell everybody where you're at today, Lacey?
Yes, so the jokes before the meeting. I'm actually in Bosque de la Apache Nature Preserve, so I am with a group of 20 students on an all-day photography outing, and so they're eating lunch, and I got them, tucked away, thawing out because it's very cold here. But yes, in beautiful Socorro, New Mexico, taking some pictures of some really cool wildlife. But I also teach in ag communications. I'm an assistant professor at New Mexico.
Oh no, she broke up on me a little bit. Well, thank you. Yeah, I don't know if it was just me or others, but it was at the very end. So I think we're good. So thank you guys for being here today. Lacey and I started kind of working on this idea of a partnership really through conversations that we had at a conference about some of the courses that we were teaching, and ended up sharing resources. And then it ended up working on a peer review where we exchanged websites between our classes and have them work. And over the summer, we started having some conversations that said, hey, a lot of times when we're working on partnerships and collaboration, we always think of research, but there's a lot of different collaborative ways that we can come together and share, whether it's research, teaching, etc. And so we thought this would be a great idea for a webinar, and to start having some more ideas for others and how we could really vamp up our collaboration throughout the profession. And so that's what started this idea. So to start with, what we wanted to talk about was, what is collaboration? And we really want to have this an interactive workshop. And so we've got some questions on here that we'll go through, but the Google definition that I found online of what collaboration is a situation of two or more people working together to create or achieve the same goal. And our first question that we want to have for you all is, how do you describe collaboration in your work, or what type of collaboration have you all had in the past?
And I am monitoring the chat too, so if you want to put it in the chat or unmute, you can do that as well. But we are open to interaction.
Or how would you define collaboration?
Okay, I'll interact with y'all. So I would say quite often with different grant submissions that I have, trying to pull in people from other universities who have other skill sets or access to resources that maybe I haven't had in the past, to submit a grant that is a collaborative project between those institutions.
Absolutely. And see, Dr. Myers, she put that collaboration is working on grant-funded projects, writing papers, and co-teaching. Dr. Myers, can you explain a little bit about co-teaching? Like, is that within just your university, or do you have somebody else that helps co-teach? Like, what does that look like for you?
Yeah, it's mainly here, and I view it as both helping my graduate students maybe get some experience teaching in the classroom, and then in our AgCom block structure, where we have 4 instructors who are rotating in and out, and the same students. And it's a very collaborative effort to make sure that we're not duplicating the workload, and that students have consistent expectations. And it's really illustrated to me how often sometimes in our teaching roles we're very private and it happens in our little classroom and we don't get to share it. And when we are co-teaching or collaborating in the teaching environment, as you and Dr. Fisher have already noted, it's really great to share more ideas across the discipline.
Awesome.
Love it. Absolutely. Yeah.
Anybody else want to describe how you've used collaboration in your work? Ricky?
I'll do the unvirtual raised hand thing. I think, I mean, I don't, hopefully people are not making this too difficult. I mean, collaboration, all the things that I do, I collaborate with individuals, whether it's for courses or papers with research. So, I mean, we're all collaborating right now. So I think it's a matter of us being able to, and willing to share ideas. That's one of the things that I really have been happy about with ag communication overall, is that I don't think that any of us are an island. We all want to collaborate to help each other out. So it's really finding mutual good, I think, for all of us overall. That's how I kind of define collaboration, is looking for the best and then we're pulling together in the same direction to make it work.
Fantastic.
We have another
and-
chat. So Jamie said providing value to others in addition to seeking value from others. I like that. Yeah, absolutely.
Fantastic. Well, thank you guys for speaking up. Well, on our next slide, we're actually going to share some stories from faculty around the country. And I think you all and the group, we wanted to just get some conversation started. I've done a really good job of talking about some partnerships or collaboration that you have worked on. And across academia, we often find, as we've seen in the chat, we've seen from our conversation, that it could be research, it could be grant work. But I think we all know, and we've seen this, that it can also be teaching partnerships. So Lacey and I, as I kind of alluded to a second ago, we got together at a conference and it found out that we had the same course. We were teaching web design. And so we got into some conversations about what are some of the resources, what PowerPoints are you using? Oh, would you be willing to share something on accessibility or user personas? And so we started sharing our work together. And we ended up doing a multi-state collaboration where my web design students at Texas Tech shared their websites to her New Mexico State students. And we did a peer review exchange and that through these two different states. And that was a really great opportunity for our students to collaborate as well as us to collaborate. But we've asked a couple of panelists. So we have Garrett Steen from University of University of Minnesota, as well as Kylie Harlan, who is our instructor in agricultural communications here at Texas Tech, and Jeff Miller. And we've asked them to also share some of their expertise on their collaboration. So Garrett, could you first just describe what is some of the collaborative partnerships that you have worked on over the last few years? And how did it start?
For sure. So, I mean, collaborative partnerships can be very simplistic, so much so that, you know, Laura asked me to be on this panel. And if many of you know, Laura and I are like work spouses. We did our PhD together. And even though we don't get to work together anymore, I would say we probably text a couple of times a week about everything work related. So that just someone to like lean on is a great partnership. And a lot of times those are established during your PhD. And that was one thing that I really benefited from during my time at Texas Tech, was there was a lot of collaboration there. And I was really accustomed to it. And I was afraid of that when I moved into my actual job after graduation. And so being in a smaller program at a very large university has some different challenges with relation to how you develop these partnerships. And so I'm going to talk about how I kind of fell into or purposely pursued different partnerships for those outside of the University of Minnesota or outside the state of Minnesota for me, both that were successfully funded and those that were not successfully funded. So I have two projects that I have going on right now that are very different. One is a curriculum development higher ed challenge grant that is a joint project between the University of Minnesota and the University of Florida. This is a really great example of having good relationships with your coworkers at your institution. This was a resubmission of a grant that I wasn't a part of to begin with, but when I came to the University of Minnesota, I very fortunately got to join on that project. We shifted it a little bit, and so this is a graduate level science communication curriculum development between our two universities. The University of Minnesota, we just got our master's program approved this last year. In the University of Florida, a very established graduate program. And so we decided to work on this collaboratively in the curriculum development portion of this grant. And so I know I've reached out to several of you about piloting those projects, the curriculum that we have, and I'll probably be chatting about that again here at the end of our seminar. But sometimes I think about having really good relationships with those within your department are there. They see you as a junior faculty member, which is my case, that you need grant opportunities, and the growth of your program is important there. Another piece of an unfunded project was that conference collaboration piece. During the North Central AAA conference in 2020, which was all virtual, in an attempt to make it more than just presenting our research on a Zoom, we had different breakout rooms to talk about a variety of different topics. And one of those was does anybody have grant ideas? And so I went to one of those breakout rooms, and we developed a Higher Ed Challenge grant that ultimately didn't get funded that year. That was across several North Central region programs. And so when you know that you want to pursue opportunities, you kind of have to make yourself vocal and get out there and find things that really fit you. What was really prominent for me at that point in time was the project that we were thinking about doing was focused on undergraduate research, and at the time we didn't have a graduate program, and so most of my research that I was doing was with undergraduates, and so I had some experience with that, but then also knew about the missing resources within that. I think they ultimately ended up submitting that grant later on, which I wasn't able to be a part of it in that second submission. And then the third way that I've been a part of multi-state projects is here on my own university campus. Again, as a small program at a large university, you can kind of fall under the radar. People aren't really sure what it is that you do within a College of Ag setting, being more a social scientist. And so I really leaned into my new faculty orientation opportunities and making collaborations, making friends with those new faculty in other departments within my college, especially since I wasn't from the region, I wasn't from the area. And as we all know, that's not uncommon for recent PhD or postdocs to stay at their institution and continue that time. So they had those connections, and I worked really hard to make those connections, and that allowed me to do some seminars about science communication and public opinion in some other departments in our university. And I got asked to be a part of a marketing piece in a USDA grant focused on wine, which I don't research wine, but now I do, and I love it because it's wine. Who doesn't love wine? And so that was just hearing what I did and being open to go and talk to classes and talk to graduate students and making the connections there in your department, especially if you're in a smaller I would say it's valuable for whether you're in a smaller department or you're not. If you're in a big department, you can kind of rest on the laurels of everyone that works there in your department and those collaborations, and that can kind of keep you siloed. And so making sure that you're reaching across the academic aisles of your college and showing how what it is that you do can benefit or align with the variety of different scientific topics that are going on within your college. Those are really important. And so those are three different ways that I found collaborative opportunities, both within AgCom, more within ag education and communication more broadly, and then outside of that space of AgCom.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing, Garrett, especially this idea of networking and reaching out to others and creating those relationships. Now, you've been in your position for quite some time now, so we wanted to hear from somebody who had just started. So we had brought in Kylie Harlan, she is our new instructor in agricultural communications, and she just started this fall, but she's been doing some work in collaborating with other faculty at other universities. And we wanted her to share her story about what she's been up to and how she's been able to create a collaborative partnership. So Kylie, can you tell us about your collaborative partnership and how it started?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you all for having me here today to talk about this. Like Dr. Fisher said, I am new to the faculty this fall, so just trying to get my feet underneath me. I'm completely 100% teaching, so just really looking for as many teaching resources that I can find to help further develop and just kind of figure out my courses. I'm teaching courses related to scientific communication and professional development. So at the beginning of the SACS webinar series for the semester, Dr. Telg spoke about the Mentee Mentor program that SACS facilitates, and it kind of piqued my interest. So I reached out to him after that first webinar and told him a little bit about myself, my teaching interests, all that kind of stuff. And he was able to pair me with a mentor, Dwayne Cartmel at Oklahoma State University. And at first, I wasn't sure. It sounded like Dr. Cartmel had a lot of photography, and that was kind of his area of expertise, which it is. But I shortly found out after that he teaches similar classes in the realm of professional development and scientific communication, and has been doing that for some time. And so we've really been able to connect through our Zoom meetings. We have monthly Zoom meetings that we've been able to connect and just talk a little bit about not only sharing course content and gathering some ideas from how he's been teaching his courses, what's worked for him, what hasn't worked for him, things that he's tried but just never really flushed out, to how to manage your classroom and how to manage your teaching assistants. I mean, it's really been we've covered a lot of topics in the few months that we've been meeting, just because he has a lot of experience in those areas, which I, like I said, am looking to just gain more knowledge in. And so that has been a really, really helpful collaborative partnership, especially throughout this first semester. I feel like it's helping me set myself up for even more success next semester. And so it's been super helpful to just kind of see what other people are doing at other universities with those same courses. The faculty here at Tech, of course, are very supportive and have been very, very helpful during this time. And I was lucky to have received materials from them for those previous courses, which really helped me at the beginning. But it's nice to kind of see what other people are doing at different universities with the same thing and just kind of gather some more ideas. So that has been really, really helpful. And one of the questions was, how does it start? I just asked. And so I think that's the main thing, is that you just kind of have to put yourself out there and you have to ask and kind of explore those options.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kylie, for sharing your insights. Our last panelist that we're going to talk to you is Jeff Miller from the University of Arkansas. And so, Jeff, you're on the forefront of creating this new collaborative partnership. Can you tell us a little bit about your upcoming collaborative partnership and how these ideas started?
You bet. So as I've been listening, I also wanted to mention my favorite partnership maybe of my career, and that has been with Ohio State University, Emily Buck and Annie Specht, and our study tour. And what made me think of that was your big graphic here that says changing it all to besties. And my first piece of advice is to be intentional regarding collaborating with people you like and people you get along with and that are good fits personality wise. That I think makes that has to be an ingredient, I think, for really strong collaborations. But the activity that you're referring to, Laura, recently is our new multi-state experiment station project that's focused on science communication. And I've kind of been leading that role, and that multi-state project is in place now. And we have a small group of people, of faculty from across the country who have begun meeting. We've just met once, and so the collaboration is really just taking place. But we're begun meeting about how that group should be organized and what kinds of tasks we want to lay out in front of ourselves to be able to obtain our objectives, which is to do research on how to improve science communications in agriculture, and also on how to improve teaching science communication, or teaching people to be science communicators in agriculture, food, and natural resources. So I don't know what you want me to share in terms of that project, but I really wanted to let everybody know that it exists, and that if you haven't looked into joining a multi-state project, that this is one that a lot of you might be interested in. It's called S1095, Science, Communication, and Agriculture. And if you need an experiment station project to be a part of, then this is a good one. And we're going to have our first annual meeting in Atlanta on Tuesday afternoon of SAS after NACS is over with. Then we'll have a sort of an initial planning meeting of S1095. Anyone interested in improving science communication is welcome to attend. And if you need more information, you can just send me an email.
Hey, Jeff, can you talk just briefly what it means to be a formal multi-state project through the AES system versus just a project that has multiple states involved in it?
Right. So first of all, if you have an experiment station appointment, if you're a faculty member and you have any percentage of experiment station appointment, then you're most likely required to have a project that you are associated with. Most of us have what we call CRISP projects, and it's just a research area or research focus that we have individually that can work towards some higher objective with the experiment station. And then if you want to go farther up the line with USDA. But if you want to have do that kind of work collaboratively, then you can join a multi-state project where we have faculty from all over the U.S., even though they may be based regionally. Ours is based in the southern region, hence S1095. The S stands for Southern. People can join these research groups, and they are segues to specific collaborations. So people can conduct research together and write articles together. People can choose to form work groups and write grants together that could end up with more research conducted, or maybe even teaching and outreach activities conducted. And so this S1095 brings ag communicators together who want to work across state lines on teaching, research, and outreach activities. And one of the I guess reasons to belong to one of these is that your administrator has your experiment station administrator has a pool of money set aside that will allow you to travel to multi-state research meetings. So if you're a part of a multi-state project, then your experiment station director has a pool of money set aside to pay for your travel. So many of you will use that pool of money if you belong to the multi-state project, for example, to travel to SAS, because our multi-state meeting is going to be there, and now you have a new funding source to cover your travel to SAS.
Lovely. Awesome. Thank you so much to our panelists for being willing to share your story. So as Laura and I started talking about, well, what do we want this to look like? We really wanted to showcase the variety of options that are out there, because as I told Laura, when I first got started in this role in academia, I thought a multi-state partnership was only for grants. At the thought of crossing state lines and working with a different university in a classroom sense was kind of very out there for me. And so it's turned into a really fun project for Laura and I think we are also turning into work besties and finding our groove. And I think what's really cool is to think about how it betters our program. So as Dr. Telg talked about, like collaboration, this in and of itself is collaborating. And as a group in ag communications, I think it's so important for us to continue to strengthen our programs. One way we do that is obviously through grants and research and funding, but another way is to ensure that our teaching and our graduates that are leaving any ag communications program are strong. And so ensuring and encouraging multi-state partnerships, whether it is research, grant, or teaching, we just want to kind of be your cheerleaders in that and say that it's a really great way to one, ensure that we are strong as a unit, but also to just kind of refresh your perspective on the classroom. Sometimes I think that was helpful for Laura and I. We sometimes, as we got to talking about our teaching, we're like, oh, this is really bothering me. Does this bother you too? And then we also said, well, yes, it does, but here's what I'm doing. And so we were really able to kind of pick each other up out of some of those struggles within the classroom. So it's really awesome to hear the variety of work that's being done. But we do want to ask another question, and that's if you're going to give one piece of advice for starting a collaborative relationship, what would it be? You know, we've heard that you need to say yes and kind of be open to it, but how do you make that ask? Does anyone have any advice that they would like to share or they found to be helpful in starting a collaborative partnership?
I'll jump in. I think clarity is important. What it is that you need, what you need from the partner, what that resource, whether it's time or actual things are, because I think that's where partnerships go downhill if we're not clear and honest about what we need.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think that clarity also helps build that long-lasting relationship as well. Kind of helps the longevity of it. Awesome. Thank you, Dr. Rutherford. Any other advice for, maybe doing the ask for any younger faculty members, if they're scared or don't know how to make that happen?
I have a something to comment on about that. And that's like protecting yourself on these types of programs, especially when you're brought on to projects outside of the realm of AgCom or even Ag Ed, is to make sure, like, look at what the value is that you're going to bring to being a part of it, and then also what value it's going to bring to you. You don't want them to bring you on to make stuff pretty, as they oftentimes think. Like you need to come away with curriculum, you need to come away with research, something that's going to impact your promotion and tenure. So that's something that's really important for, so in my wine grant, there was a piece of that. And so I said, okay, that's fine, but we have to write in an undergraduate student who's going to do this design work the whole time so that it doesn't fall on me. So making sure that you protect yourself in the role that you're going to play, because sometimes, as most of you know, your college or other departments can sometimes view you as the make stuff pretty, help us make stuff accessible department. So protecting yourself during that is really important. So know when to say no.
That's a great point. Thank you for sharing that, Dr. Steed, especially this idea of protecting our time and making sure that they see the value in our work that we're doing in agricultural communications. Great point. Any other pieces of advice?
Yeah, Dr. Miller has his hand up.
So I thought I would chime in and say that as you look for partners, if you're really just wanting to partner with more people, then obviously cast a wide net, but identify people who are as enthusiastic as you about the project. So if you're having to beg people to work with you in the beginning, then that may be a sign that that things might not go so well in the near future. So find people who are just as enthusiastic as you. Also, be prepared to work through institutional differences, because institutions do things in different ways, right? And we have to be respectful of that, but we also have to plan to be ready to address those issues. So, for example, on our study tours, it's not practical for students to register for the program all through one institution, because students from another institution are going to be given their tuition to institution one, and administrators don't like that, right? So from the very beginning, think about how institutions do things differently and plan to either work through those or work around those issues.
Yeah, that's an important point. We find this not only with study abroad, but also research dealing with how other universities handle IRB. There's just a lot of questions and having to plan for that. Any other pieces of advice that you all would like to share?
I will. So she had to step off, but I was given some really wonderful advice from Dr. Rutherford as I got started trying to not think about the multi-state, but just collaborating across departments, because I want to experience a variety of things. Like, listen, if I could study wine like Garrett, that would be awesome, right? We would love it. And she gave me some really awesome advice to kind of have basically your elevator pitch ready, but honestly a sheet of paper that says, here's what I can do, here's my skills, here's what I'm wanting, and actually going and meeting with department heads and saying, here's what I'm looking for in grant opportunities. If you know faculty that are needing X, Y, and Z, please use my contact, and going around to different department heads around just our university to get established just here, and then hopefully that might lead to the next step, which would be across state. So as younger faculty members, if you're curious about, well, how do I just bridge the gap between AgCom and maybe plant and soil science, that was some wonderful advice that helped me feel more confident to walk into a department head's office and say, here's what I have to offer, call me, and walk out with confidence. So some advice.
Awesome.
I would also say, don't do a partnership just to be in a partnership. Like, I think even some of our senior faculty have figured out that it's okay to say no if it's not a good fit. Don't say yes just for the sake of being involved. So it's that enthusiasm piece that Jeff said, is if you're not enthusiastic about it, then just because somebody asked you to be a partner doesn't mean you have to.
That's a great point as well.
Great advice.
Knowing how to say no. Perfect.
That's a whole other talk.
All right, so we had a couple of more questions for you all, just to keep this conversation going. But the first one, how have you fostered collaborative partnerships in the past? Anybody else rather than our panel group?
I want to chime in on something I think Garrett said about the just discussion around ideas. I think sometimes at conferences, it's really hard to find that downtime to just have some conversations. And the fact is, I think we've mentioned that partnerships are like entering a relationship. There has to be some common understanding and building of trust before you're going to be vulnerable enough to say, okay, yeah, let's try this. And I think at research conferences, those are great opportunities for you to visit with people about your interest areas, about their shared interest areas. But if you come at me, if you're really aggressive about it, I'm probably less interested. And so there is, I think, this balance of being really enthusiastic and excited about a project, but also recognizing, and I think we would all agree, we have a lot on our plates, right? It's the curse of competence. Once you do good work, people are going to ask you to do more work. So I think in terms of fostering collaborative partnerships, it's about just being honest with people. I think Tracy Rutherford already mentioned the clarity piece about what is it that you're asking for, what will be the time demands, what would be my involvement. And for those of you who are just getting started, I know the advice has been, sometimes you have to be on some bad teams to figure out what you're looking for. So also don't look at that as a failure. Like if you agree to a project and you get through it and you're like, I'm never doing that again, then you've learned some important lessons and you'll look for those and you'll avoid those in the future. So I think fostering collaborative partnerships comes with practice, it comes with reflection. And I know everyone on this call who's young and starting out, you're gonna do great. So just hang in there.
That's awesome advice.
I think to Courtney's point too, it seems there's a lot of conversation in higher ed, especially across land grants and at various institutions, as you read things coming out of USDA proposals and newsletters and whatnot about interdisciplinary this and multidisciplinary that and whatnot. And that we all also need to still run a little bit independent and work within our silos a little bit in order to help us, because interdisciplinary and multidisciplinary, A, takes time, and B, is a shared effort, and it takes time. And so having the capacity to also do some of our own individual and independent work to then couple along with or then contribute into the bigger multi and interdisciplinary or collaborative type projects is kind of a foundational piece to help faculty build into that as well. When you look at promotion and tenure packets and reviews and those kinds of things going forward, a faculty member that can work within their own domain and be successful there and do maybe some granting, but at least some publishing and some research and some mentoring and then build off of that and contribute into collaborative and the bigger picture of the interdisciplinary, the multidisciplinary pieces as well. And show that progression through your academic career as you're moving up through your scholarly pieces will be beneficial as well. So don't feel like everything's got to be collaborative or multidisciplinary or interdisciplinary or transdisciplinary or whatever level of blending across the silos you're wanting to create. That having the ability to work within your own domain is important as well.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Absolutely. I think you gotta be you gotta be that competent first, right? To have that curse of competency. Any other
Well,
ideas of how you fostered?
Lacey, building that confidence early too could also then help you not have the imposter syndrome down the road too. I've had that conversation in multiple mentoring topics, or topic in multiple mentoring conversations is, at what point does that imposter syndrome go away? When do you feel that you have the confidence that you're actually, you know what you're saying and you can do what you're promising? And I don't think it ever completely goes away, but you build that confidence early and through some of those other smaller pieces as well.
Absolutely. I would say that to build on your point, Jason, I think some of my best collaborative partnerships helped build that. Like I had some part, but just having somebody that came alongside and said, hey, you did a great job. And not somebody that's just in my institution, but somebody that could see it from a different perspective was helpful in saying, all right, cool, I have something valuable to add to this discipline after I had already had some small little bit of confidence and I knew where I wanted to go. That was one of the things. And that kind of moves us into our next question, which is like, how could you benefit from a collaborative partnership? You know, I talked about how I see it benefit our classroom and our programs. And I think my website design class got much better after my partnership with Laura. And not only that, but students themselves were better after implementing some of our kind of skill building activities. So I'm curious, we want to know what benefits do you see from your collaborative partnerships? Is it personal? Do you see any professional benefits? I see Courtney already has her hand up.
I'm using the Ricky Telg method right here. So one thing that it just kind of sparked to me is that if any of you want me to be a guest speaker in one of your classes, let's do it, because those are my potential grad students, right? They're already at your university. I'm not going to poach them for their undergraduate degree, but if we could encourage our students to consider other places for higher education, I think that would benefit us overall. My second point, I've had the honor of teaching our Foundations of AgCom class, our graduate level class. It's been a decade since I've needed to teach it. Other people have taught it. And I was reading an article that Tracy Arani and David Dorfert wrote about preparing AgCom for the next 150 years. And what Laura and Lacey, what you are working on is part of what they described, is this need for us to be more collaborative across institutions to overcome any sort of bureaucratic issues or just the small programs, and to build that disciplinary focus and expertise. So I just want to say that, you know, kudos to you both for illustrating that it can be done. I think you need to do what you all have done and find people that you enjoy and can learn from and support. But all that is to say that I think even this is my 16th year, and I'm learning and growing from the people that I get to interact with. And I think that's one of the best things that you can benefit from in this partnership.
I love it. Yeah, it's a fantastic benefit. Thank you, Courtney, for sharing. Any other benefits or things that you might think about? Ginger.
Yeah, I'm in my shared office. Can y'all hear me all right?
Can hear you great.
Perfect. So I was going to say, Dr. Fisher's my PhD advisor. I'm a candidate, so I'm definitely in the infancy, if I'm even in the profession at all. But I would like to be for a long time. And so, thinking about collaborative partnerships, my dissertation, we've already hit on these themes, but I want to offer collaboration between industry as an example of how much I've benefited from getting it's through with NCBA of getting their feedback my instruments, on the theoretical frameworks, on kind of connecting the end user with the research process. And it is doing this early in my career has made me think this is something I want to do forever. And then Kylie kind of mentioned this earlier, Miss Harlan, of just asking. And that's how we got this industry partnership. Was Dr. Fisher and we used that enthusiasm, and right then we were like, she said, let's reach out to them. Let's reach out and see if they want to partner on this. And then thus a collaboration was born. So kind of taking advantage of the idea, of the early enthusiasm, and of that industry expertise there.
Yes, Ginger, that's incredible. I think that's a great piece to loop in. And actually that's exactly, so I'm sitting in Bosque del Apache and actually partnering with New Mexico Game and Fish because I had a wild hair idea of, hey, you do guides all the time. Can you take 20 kiddos and walk us through the park? And it's turned into a fantastic collaboration. So I think that's something that we shouldn't forget, Ginger, is bringing in industry, because it's also a great way to train our students and have some great impact long-term in the classroom. Awesome. So thinking about time, I think we're going to move on. Laura, do you want to take us into our last bit?
Perfect. So we brought up a lot of points about how we can do collaboration, how others have done collaboration, some pieces of advice, looking at benefits. But we wanted to open and finish our conversation with what help do you need with facilitating a collaborative partnership? And so we created this Jamboard, and let me paste this link into the chat. There she goes. But if you guys want to just take a moment and as we open this up, hopefully you can still see my screen. We just created a small Jamboard to say, what are some collaboration ideas? And we divided this into research and grants and teaching. And so if you have an idea or if there's something that you need help with, this would be a great place to put it. So I'm teaching our campaigns class for the first time next semester. And so I'm going to probably put something on here about what are some resources or advice that you have for teaching campaigns. Time and money, I would agree with that one too. And we can keep this open, but feel free to add information about your name or your email, and that way people can start connecting and making those if you need to.
Love seeing some things go on there. But yeah, we thought if we're talking about how do we do this, we said, you know what, why not give time for people to actually make that ask? So if you're nervous, if you're a beginner, we hope to see some really great collaborations coming from this. So seeing some research and grants. Yeah. Campaign course. Ooh, coffee talk time at conferences. Hey, okay, so I put on the multi-state photo tours. I love seeing somebody put a domestic study away. So I'm going to actually put and encourage you again, if you have things that are on here, you might put your contact information. So whoever put in domestic study away, I can send you an email and let you know. We can visit.
Perfect. Well, thank you guys. If you guys want to keep working on this, add your contact information. We'll send this out we'll ask Ricky to send this out as well. So if you want to collaborate, you want to make connections between some of these people, I think this might be a great start for some of these ideas for collaboration. And then Ricky, we're trying to save you time for you can do your updates.
Great, thank you. So yes, if you can send me this link, Laura and Lacey, I'll get this out when I send this out to everybody with the video link that you can access to the website too. So keep it active. I think it's a great idea to keep this up for a while to see what ideas are generated here. We do have about 10 minutes according to my clock here. So this is a time that first, let me ask, are there any other questions or comments you folks would like to make around this overall topic here of multi-state collaborations? Yes, thank you. Let's all thank Lacey and Laura for their presentation today. Great kickoff, I think, generate some ideas, and things are still going on on this. So I know that we have a couple things to share. So Jeff just put in there about the project he was talking about. So please check on that too. Are there any announcements folks have maybe upcoming jobs or conferences? I see Courtney first. Courtney, go ahead.
Yes, we have a position. We should be able to officially release it next week. We were hoping by December 1st. So that's the end of this week. We'll see. This is to hire for Dr. Dorfert's. Dr. Dorfert is retiring in May. I never want to say it's a replacement because that's not possible, but it will be a position in an assistant professor in agricultural communications. It will have a heavy research appointment for our discipline, at least 50% research. And then the remaining teaching, a little bit of service in there. As a non-land grant, we don't have that extension appointment. But I'll be sure to share that with Ricky and push it out. I'm on the search committee. Dr. Gibson is the chair of that. So anyway, please share that with others who you think might be interested, or if you're interested, please let me know and I'll tell you some more.
Great. Thank you, Courtney. Garrett.
Hi, as I mentioned in my time earlier as a panelist, our Higher Ed Challenge grant that we in the University of Florida have, we are looking for faculty to pilot test some of the modules that we have available. And the idea would be if you have a graduate level AgCom course that you're teaching this spring or fall, and that you could incorporate one or more of these modules into the course or into a course or courses that you're teaching to evaluate for us. We would certainly appreciate that. I am putting in the chat the modules that we have available and how much content we have. These are all designed for a 3 credit hour course. And so there are more modules. I think we have 16 total modules that will eventually be developed, but these are the ones that we're ready to pilot at this point in time. So if you are interested in piloting one or more of these for us, I'm kind of coordinating that for our team. And so you can shoot me an email. I just dropped that in the chat as well. And I'd be happy to chat with you any more about the details of these pieces, but it would be a Google Drive folder with slide decks, readings, and module outline and assignments for each of these. They could be synchronous or asynchronous, just depending on how you you choose to use the materials.
Okay. Great. Thank you, Garrett. Appreciate that. Jamie, I saw you put something in the chat there, posting the next SACS webinar. So that's coming up. Talking about VR activities and AI tools, which is very cool. I'm getting more and more into the AI tools. If you haven't checked out the Photoshop generative AI, blow your mind. That's all I'll say. So I won't give anything else away because who knows what Jamie's going to share with us in January. So I'll get to that in just a second. Taylor, you had something you'd like to share too, I believe.
Yes. Are y'all able to hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. I was trying to talk earlier and then Jason started talking and I was like, I know he's not interrupting me. My mic was not working at all, but it wasn't good what I was going to say. I have a quick announcement about the National AgCom Symposium next, because we've been getting a couple questions coming in now that it's about to be December. We have a couple of reviews we're still waiting on, but our officer team is meeting next Monday, and then we should be releasing the acceptance decisions shortly after that. So keep an eye out for those emails if you submitted anything. I did want to briefly touch on the agenda because I know people are trying to plan for travel as well. It's pretty much the same as it's been in the past. There's not a Saturday event that we're coordinating this year like we did last year, but Sunday we will be providing breakfast. Breakfast is from 7 to 7:30 a.m., bright and early. Come and join us. And then we'll wrap pretty much around the same time we normally do on that Sunday session after the poster session, which ends around 4 p.m. And then on Monday, we are going to start again around 8 a.m. and we'll wrap by 12 p.m. So it's just Sunday and Monday for NACS. And then Jeff, I had a question in our chat about when your meeting was again. Maybe if you could state the times. I know it's on Tuesday after Southern Region AAE wraps up, but it might be good just to say the time for your meeting one more time.
Sorry about that. I must have missed it in the chat. Yeah, our meeting will be from 1 to 3:30. I'm sorry, 1:30 to 3, 1:30 to 3 on Tuesday. So I know that NACS ends on Monday. but many of us are also members of AAAE Southern Region, and their events don't end until lunchtime on Tuesday. And so we will meet just after lunch on Tuesday. Did I say it right? 1:30 to 3 on Tuesday.
so.
Try to make your travel plans, set them to where you won't have to leave the conference center until after 3.
Thanks.
Any other announcements? Thank you all for that. So those of you who are ACE members, please be sure to check. There are still calls out for papers, posters, proposals for grad students, theses and dissertations, and also professional development sessions that are out there for the meeting that will be in Salt Lake City next June. So please check on that. So otherwise, anything else? Okay, our next time to get together, Jamie's already kind of given the precursor there in the chat, will be on January 22nd. And so, as he says there, if you have a topic that you would like for him to kind of talk about or provide some information on, please check with him before then, but we'll be on January 22nd at 3 o'clock Eastern time. We'll take a break for the holidays, so we won't see each other for a couple of months. So until either January 22nd or times when we can collaboratively work together in a multi-state environment between now and then, have a very happy holiday, Merry Christmas, and we'll see each other again next year. Thanks. Bye-bye.